Maya Johnson stepped into the sleek glass doors of Prestige Motors, the city's most exclusive car dealership. The showroom gleamed with polished marble floors and spotlights highlighting luxury vehicles that cost more than most people's homes. She had saved for years, built her tech company from the ground up, and today was the day she would finally buy her dream car, a midnight blue Mercedes S-Class she'd seen in their online inventory. She wore a simple pair of jeans and a hoodie, having come straight from a coding marathon at her office. Her natural hair was pulled back in a ponytail, and she carried a worn leather messenger bag that had been with her since her startup days. As soon as she entered, a young salesman named Derek approached with a smile. "Good afternoon. Welcome to Prestige Motors. How can I help you today?" "Hi, I'm interested in the Mercedes S-Class, the blue one listed on your website," Mia said warmly. Derek's smile widened. "Excellent choice. Let me get some information and we can." "Derek." A sharp voice cut through the showroom. A middle-aged man in an expensive suit strode toward them, his face set in hard lines. His name tag read Richard Foster, sales manager. "I'll handle this," Richard said coldly, his eyes scanning Maya from head to toe with barely concealed disdain. Derek hesitated, looking uncomfortable, but stepped back. Richard turned to Maya, his tone shifting to barely professional. "Can I help you with something?" "Yes, as I was telling Derek, I'd like to see the Mercedes S-Class. That vehicle is $120,000, Richard interrupted, crossing his arms. "Are you sure you're in the right place? We have a sister dealership across town that handles more affordable options." Maya's stomach tightened, but she kept her composure. "I'm aware of the price. I'd like to discuss purchasing it." Richard let out a dismissive laugh. "Listen, I don't know what you're trying to pull here, but I've been in this business for 20 years. I can spot a time waster from a mile away. We get people like you in here all the time, just looking to sit in cars you can't afford, take selfies, waste our time." "People like me?" Maya's voice was steady, but her hands clenched around her bag strap. "Don't play games." "You know exactly what I mean," Richard said, his voice dropping lower. "You walk in here in those clothes, with that attitude, thinking you can just, I have the money," Maya interrupted firmly. "I'd like to speak with someone who's actually interested in making a sale." Richard's face reddened. "The answer is no. I don't have time for this nonsense. I'm asking you to leave. Now. Before I call security." Around them, other customers had begun to notice the commotion. An elderly white couple looked over with curiosity. Another salesman pretended to be engrossed in paperwork, clearly uncomfortable but unwilling to intervene. Derek stepped forward tentatively. "Mr. Foster, maybe we should at least," "I said I'm handling this, Derek. Get back to work." Maya's heart pounded, a familiar mixture of rage and hurt flooding through her. She'd experienced racism before, the suspicious looks in stores, the random security checks, the surprise when she spoke with her Ivy League vocabulary, but this was different. This was blatant, public, and humiliating. "You're refusing to serve me because I'm black," Maya said clearly, her voice carrying across the showroom. Several heads turned. "Oh, here we go," Richard scoffed. "Everything's about race with you people. I'm refusing to serve you because you're clearly not a serious buyer. This is a business, not a charity. Now leave before I have you removed." Maya felt the eyes of everyone in the showroom on her. The humiliation burned, but something else burned hotter: the injustice of it all. She'd worked herself to exhaustion building her company, had gone without sleep, skipped meals, sacrificed relationships, all to achieve success. And yet here she stood, being treated like she didn't belong, like she was somehow less than human. "I'm not leaving without seeing your owner," Maya said, her voice quiet but firm. Richard laughed. "The owner? You want to speak to the owner?" "Lady, the owner of Prestige Motors doesn't waste time with. "Then I'll make a phone call," Maya said, pulling out her iPhone. "Oh, what, you're going to call your lawyer? The NAACP?" Richard mocked. "Go ahead. Call whoever you want. You have no case here. I have the right to refuse service to anyone who—" "I'm not calling a lawyer," Maya said, her fingers already dialing. Maya stepped slightly away, her back to Richard, and pressed the phone to her ear. Her hand trembled slightly, but her voice was steady when the call connected. "Hey, James," she said. "It's Maya. I need a favor." "No, everything's okay, I'm at Prestige Motors on Riverside Drive, and I'm having a situation." "Yeah, that dealership. James, I'm standing here trying to buy a car, and the sales manager just refused to serve me. He said I'm wasting his time, that people like me come in here to take selfies in cars we can't afford. Yes, he's standing right here. James, he called security on me." There was a pause as she listened. "Richard Foster. He's the sales manager." "Okay. Thank you, James. I really appreciate it. She ended the call and turned back to Richard, who was watching with an amused, condescending expression. Feel better now? Richard asked mockingly. Who was that, your boyfriend? Your pastor? Someone from one of those activist groups? That was James Morrison, Maya said calmly. Richard's expression didn't change. Am I supposed to know who that is? He's the CEO of Morrison Equity Group. They own this dealership. Actually, they own 63 dealerships across 12 states, including this one. For the first time, Richard's smug expression flickered. Bullshit, he said, but his voice had lost some of its confidence. You're bluffing. You don't know James Morrison. I know him very well, actually, Maya said. Morrison Equity Group was one of the first investors in my company, Technova Solutions. James has been a mentor to me for the past 5 years. We have dinner once a month to discuss business. The color was slowly draining from Richard's face. Technova Solutions? Derek spoke up from behind, his eyes wide. Wait, you're Maya Johnson? The Maya Johnson? I just read about your company in Forbes last month. You landed that massive government contract. Shut up, Derek, Richard snapped, but the panic was evident in his voice now. He turned back to Maya, attempting to regain control. Look, if there's been some kind of misunderstanding, there's no misunderstanding, Maya said coldly. You made yourself perfectly clear. You judged me by my appearance, assumed I couldn't afford to shop here, and refused me service. You called me you people. You mocked me in front of your entire showroom. I never said anything about race, Richard protested, sweat beginning to bead on his forehead. You're twisting my words. I was just doing my job, qualifying potential buyers, by their skin color? Maya asked. Is that how you qualify buyers? Before Richard could respond, his phone rang. He pulled it out with shaking hands, looked at the screen, and his face went completely white. I need to take this, he muttered, walking quickly toward his office. Through the glass walls, Maya and everyone else in the showroom could see Richard's animated gestures, his pacing, his hand running through his hair repeatedly. Even without hearing the words, the conversation was clearly not going well for him. Derek approached Maya cautiously. Ms. Johnson, I am so sorry about what just happened. That was completely unprofessional and unacceptable. I would be honored to help you find the perfect vehicle. Maya looked at the young man, seeing genuine remorse in his eyes. Thank you, Derek. I appreciate that. 3 minutes later, Richard emerged from his office. His face was ashen, his confident demeanor completely shattered. He walked straight to Maya, and to everyone's shock, his voice cracked when he spoke. Ms. Johnson, I apologize. I made a terrible mistake. I was completely out of line, and Stop, Maya held up her hand. Don't apologize to me because your boss called you. Apologize because you know what you did was wrong. Richard stood there, mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. You don't even see it, do you? Maya continued, her voice steady but filled with emotion. You looked at me and saw someone who didn't belong. Not because of anything I said or did, but because of how I look. You made assumptions based on the color of my skin and decided I wasn't worthy of your time or respect. I didn't mean yes, you did, Maya said firmly. That's the problem. You absolutely meant it. You've probably done this before, to other people who didn't have the connections I do to call you out on it. How many others, Richard? How many other Black customers, Latino customers, Asian customers have you treated this way? How many people have walked out of here feeling humiliated and small because you decided they didn't meet your visual criteria? The showroom was completely silent. Every employee, every customer was watching this unfold. I want you to understand something, Maya continued. I graduated from MIT with a degree in computer science. I built Technova from nothing, started in my apartment with $5,000 and a dream. I worked 80-hour weeks for years. I failed, got back up, and failed again. Last year, my company generated $50 million in revenue. This year, we're projected to triple that. I have more money in my checking account right now than you'll probably make in your entire career. Richard looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. But none of that should matter, Maya said, her voice softening slightly. I shouldn't have to recite my resume to be treated with basic human dignity and respect. A person's worth isn't determined by their bank account, their clothes, or the color of their skin. Every single person who walks through those doors deserves to be treated professionally and with respect. That's not complicated. That's just being a decent human being. You're absolutely right, Richard whispered. I'm sorry. I truly am sorry. Before Maya could respond, the glass doors of the dealership opened, and a tall man in his 60s with silver hair strode in. James Morrison. He was followed by a woman in a sharp business suit carrying a tablet. Maya. James called out, his face tight with anger as he approached. He gave her a warm hug, then turned to Richard with ice in his eyes. Mr. Foster. My office. Now. Mr. Morrison, sir, I can explain now, James repeated, his tone leaving no room for argument. Richard followed him to the office like a man walking to his execution. Through the glass, they could see James gesturing emphatically, his face red with anger. The conversation lasted less than 5 minutes. When they emerged, Richard looked destroyed. James's assistant handed him a folder, which he signed with trembling hands. James addressed the entire showroom, his voice carrying authority. Ladies and gentlemen, I apologize for the disruption. What happened here today is completely unacceptable and does not represent the values of Morrison Equity Group or Prestige Motors. We pride ourselves on treating every customer with respect and dignity, regardless of their appearance, background, or race. That is non-negotiable. He turned to Richard. Mr. Foster is no longer employed by this dealership, effective immediately. Security will escort you out. You have 1 hour to collect your personal belongings. Richard opened his mouth, closed it, then looked at Maya one last time. I really am sorry, he said quietly, then walked toward the exit where 2 security guards had appeared. After Richard had been escorted out, James turned to Maya with genuine concern in his eyes. Maya, I cannot express how sorry I am about what you experienced here today. This is inexcusable. Maya nodded, feeling the adrenaline starting to fade and exhaustion taking its place. Thank you for coming, James. I honestly didn't know if calling you was the right move, but you absolutely did the right thing, James interrupted firmly. This kind of behavior, it's exactly what we've been working to eliminate across all our dealerships. We've implemented training, policies, oversight, and yet here we are. He shook his head in frustration. The woman with the tablet stepped forward. Ms. Johnson, I'm Patricia Chen, the Regional Director for Morrison Equity Group. I want to assure you that we're taking this incident very seriously. We'll be conducting a full investigation into Mr. Foster's employment history and reviewing whether there have been other similar complaints. We'll also be implementing additional oversight here at this location. I appreciate that, Maya said. But I don't want this to just be about me. What about the people who experienced this but didn't have the ability to make a phone call that changed everything? What about the customers who just left quietly, feeling humiliated? James nodded thoughtfully. You're absolutely right. Patricia, I want you to personally review every customer complaint at this location for the past 5 years. Interview staff. If there's a pattern of discrimination, I want to know about it. And I want recommendations for how we prevent this across all our locations. Yes, sir, Patricia said, making notes on her tablet. Derek, who had been standing nearby, cleared his throat nervously. Mr. Morrison, sir, if I may, there have been times when Mr. Foster's behavior made me uncomfortable. The way he'd treat certain customers differently. I should have said something earlier. I'm sorry I didn't. James studied the young man for a moment. What's your name? Derek Walsh, sir. Derek, the fact that you're speaking up now shows character. But you're right, you should have said something earlier. In this company, we don't just expect you to avoid being part of the problem, we expect you to be part of the solution. If you see something wrong, you speak up. Are we clear? Yes, sir. Crystal clear. James turned back to Maya. Now, I believe you came here to buy a car. Derek, I'm putting you in charge of making sure Ms. Johnson has the best car buying experience of her life. Whatever she wants, whatever she needs, you make it happen. Understood? Absolutely, sir. Derek said enthusiastically. And Maya, James added with a slight smile, whatever car you choose, it's on the house. Consider it our apology. Maya shook her head. James, I appreciate the gesture, but that's not necessary. I didn't come here for a free car. I came here to buy one because I earned the money to do so. I'll pay full price. James looked at her with respect. Okay. But I'm throwing in free maintenance for life. That's non-negotiable. Maya smiled. Deal. Over the next hour, Derek proved to be everything Richard was not: professional, knowledgeable, and genuinely enthusiastic about helping Maya find the perfect vehicle. He showed her not just the Mercedes S-Class she'd originally come for, but several other options, patiently explaining the features and benefits of each. The S-Class is incredible, Derek explained as they sat in the luxurious interior. The technology is cutting edge. Given that you're in tech, you'd probably appreciate the MBUX system. It's one of the most advanced infotainment systems in the industry. Maya ran her hands over the leather seats, tested the controls, and took the car for a test drive. The moment she accelerated onto the highway and felt the powerful engine respond, she knew this was the one. "This is it," she said with a smile. "This is my car." Back at the dealership, as Derek handled the paperwork with impressive efficiency, other staff members approached Maya. A saleswoman named Jennifer spoke up first. "Ms. Johnson, I just want to say, what you did today was brave. I'm ashamed to admit that I witnessed Mr. Foster treat other customers poorly before, and I never said anything. I told myself it wasn't my business, that I didn't want to cause problems. But staying silent made me part of the problem." An older salesman named Robert nodded. "She's right. I'm retiring next year, and I've been in this business for 35 years. I've seen too much of this kind of behavior, and I've looked the other way too many times. What happened today was a wake-up call. Thank you for not staying silent." Maya felt emotion welling up. "Thank you for saying that. Change doesn't happen when good people stay quiet. It happens when we all decide that enough is enough." As Derek finalized the paperwork, Maya's phone buzzed with a text from her best friend, Zara. "Where are you? We were supposed to meet for lunch an hour ago." Maya quickly typed back, "Long story. Just bought my dream car. I'll explain everything over dinner." Zara responded immediately, "OMG. Pictures. I want all the details." Derek handed Maya the final documents to sign. As she signed her name, he said quietly, "Ms. Johnson, can I ask you something?" "Of course. How did you do it?" "Stay so calm, I mean. If someone had treated me the way Mr. Foster treated you, I think I would have either completely broken down or completely lost it." Maya paused, considering the question carefully. "Honestly? I wanted to do both. I wanted to scream, to cry, to storm out. But I've learned that anger without direction is just noise. I knew that losing my composure would just confirm his prejudices in his mind, that I was difficult or aggressive. By staying calm, by being strategic, I could actually address the situation effectively." She continued, "But let me be clear, that's not fair. I shouldn't have to perform perfect composure in the face of racism to be taken seriously. That's another burden that gets placed on people of color. We have to be twice as good, twice as calm, twice as professional just to be treated as equal. That's exhausting and it's wrong." Derek nodded, clearly absorbing every word. "I'll do better. I promise." As Maya drove her new Mercedes off the lot, she couldn't have known that the story was just beginning. One of the customers in the showroom had recorded parts of the confrontation on their phone and posted it to social media with the caption, "Racist car dealer gets instant karma when customer makes one phone call." By the next morning, the video had gone viral. Millions of views. Thousands of comments. News outlets were calling Maya for interviews. The hashtag Maya Johnson was trending nationwide. Maya's phone rang constantly. Her assistant, Marcus, called in a panic. "Maya, have you seen the news? You're everywhere." "I know," Maya said, sitting in her new car in her driveway, still processing everything that had happened. "CNN wants an interview. So does Good Morning America. Your inbox has over 5,000 messages. What do you want me to tell them?" Maya took a deep breath. She could ignore it, let it fade away, go back to her comfortable life running her company. Or she could use this moment to say something meaningful. Set up the interviews, she decided. But on my terms. I want to talk not just about what happened to me, but about the bigger picture. I want to talk about systemic racism, about economic inequality, about the assumptions people make based on appearance. Can you work with the producers on that? Absolutely, Marcus said. Maya, I'm proud of you. Thanks, Marcus. Over the next few days, Maya gave carefully considered interviews. She spoke eloquently about her experience, but always brought the conversation back to the broader issues. What happened to me was wrong, but I was lucky. I had connections, resources, power. What about the people who don't? What about the black teenager who gets followed around a store by security? What about the Latino family that gets ignored by waitstaff at a restaurant? What about the Asian business owner who gets told they speak English really well as if that's a surprise? These microaggressions happen every single day, and most people don't have the platform to address them. The response was overwhelming. People from all over the country shared their own stories of discrimination. The hashtag became a movement, a space for people to share experiences and demand change, but there was also backlash. Maya received hate mail, angry messages, people claiming she played the race card or that Richard Foster's firing was too harsh or that she was ruining an innocent man's life. One email read, "You're nothing but an entitled millionaire who destroyed a man's career because you didn't like how he talked to you. He has a family to support. I hope you're happy." Maya read these messages late at night, each one stinging. She called her mother, voice shaking. Mama, did I do the right thing? People are saying I ruined his life. Her mother's voice was firm. Baby, you didn't ruin his life. His choices ruined his career. You simply refused to accept being treated as less than human. Don't you dare let anyone make you feel guilty for standing up for yourself. But what about his family? What about the families of all the people he discriminated against over the years? What about the black father who went home and had to explain to his kids why the man at the dealership wouldn't help them? What about the young woman who left that showroom believing the world was telling her she didn't belong? Richard Foster made choices, and choices have consequences. Maya wiped her tears. You're right. Thank you, Mama. 3 weeks after the incident, Maya received an unexpected email from Richard Foster. Her first instinct was to delete it, but curiosity won out. Ms. Johnson, I don't expect you to read this, and I certainly don't expect you to respond. I just wanted you to know that I've spent the past 3 weeks in reflection, and I'm ashamed of who I've been. You were right about everything. I did make assumptions based on your appearance. I did treat you as less than. And I've done it before to others. I convinced myself I was just being a good businessman, protecting the dealership's time, but that was a lie. I told myself to excuse my prejudice. Since being fired, I've had to confront some uncomfortable truths about myself. My wife barely speaks to me. My teenage daughter is ashamed of me. She cried when she saw the video because she said I sounded just like the people she learns about in her history class who fought against civil rights. Not writing this for sympathy or forgiveness. I'm writing because I want you to know that what happened that day changed me. I've started attending anti-racism workshops. I'm reading books by James Baldwin, Ta-Nehisi Coates, Ibram X. Kendi. I'm volunteering at a community center in a predominantly black neighborhood, trying to do some good to balance the harm I've caused. I know this doesn't erase what I did. I know sorry isn't enough. But I wanted you to know that your courage to speak up started a change in me that desperately needed to happen. Hope you're enjoying your car. Sincerely, Richard Foster. Maya read the email 3 times. Part of her was skeptical. Was this genuine growth or just performative guilt? But another part of her wanted to believe that people could change, that confronting racism didn't just mean punishing perpetrators but creating opportunities for growth. She decided to respond, Mr. Foster, thank you for your email. I appreciate you taking the time to reflect and begin doing the work. Want you to understand that what you did that day wasn't just about me. It was about every person of color who has ever been made to feel less than, who has ever been judged by their appearance rather than their character. The work you're doing now, that's not for me. That's for yourself, your family, your community, and all the people you interact with in the future. True change isn't a destination, it's a continuous journey. There will be times you mess up, times you fall back into old patterns of thinking. When that happens, I hope you'll have the courage to recognize it, acknowledge it, and keep growing. I hope your journey toward being a better person continues. Maya Johnson. She hit send, then sat back in her chair. She would probably never know if Richard Foster truly changed, but she'd given him a chance to try. Sometimes that's all we can do. 6 months after the incident, Maya stood at a podium facing an audience of over 2,000 people. She'd been invited to speak at a national conference on diversity and inclusion in business. When I walked into that dealership, she told the crowd, I just wanted to buy a car. I didn't plan to become a symbol or start a movement. But sometimes life puts us in situations where we have to decide, will we speak up or stay silent? Will we accept injustice or will we fight it? She paused, looking out at the sea of faces, young and old, every race and background, all listening intently. What happened to me was not unique. It happens every day, in different forms, in every corner of our society. The only thing unique about my situation was that I had the resources and connections to address it effectively. But every single person, regardless of their position or resources, has the power to stand up against injustice when they see it. Maya went on to share what she'd learned. First, document everything. If I hadn't stayed calm enough to remember details, if there hadn't been witnesses, it would have been my word against his. In today's world, if you can safely record an interaction, do so. Second, know your rights. You have the right to be treated fairly and without discrimination. Businesses don't have unlimited right to refuse service. They can't do so based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Third, don't be afraid to escalate. Speak to managers, corporate offices, regulatory agencies. File complaints. Use social media if appropriate. Your voice matters. Fourth, and this is important, take care of your mental health. Experiencing discrimination is traumatic. It's okay to be angry, hurt, exhausted. Seek support from friends, family, or professionals. You don't have to be a perfect victim or a superhero. And finally, for those of you who are allies, those who haven't experienced this kind of discrimination personally, speak up. Don't be a bystander. If you see someone being treated unfairly, say something. Use your privilege to amplify marginalized voices. Be willing to be uncomfortable in service of justice. The audience erupted in applause. After the speech, dozens of people approached Maya to share their own stories and thank her for her courage. A young black woman, probably in her early 20s, waited until the crowd had thinned. "Miss Johnson," she said shyly. "I just wanted to tell you I saw your story, and it inspired me. Last week, I went to a job interview where the hiring manager made some really inappropriate comments about my hair and asked questions about my race that had nothing to do with the job. Before your story, I probably would have just left and felt terrible about myself. Instead, I reported him to HR. They investigated, and he was fired. I got the job." Maya felt tears spring to her eyes. "I'm so proud of you. That took incredible courage. You showed me it was possible," the young woman said. "Thank you." A year after the incident, Maya sat in her corner office at Technova Solutions, looking out at the city skyline. Her company had just closed a $100 million Series C funding round. She'd been named one of Forbes' 40 Under 40. And yes, she still drove her midnight blue Mercedes S-Class and loved every minute of it, but more importantly, she'd used her platform to create real change. She'd established a scholarship fund for students of color pursuing careers in tech and business. She'd partnered with Morrison Equity Group to create a nationwide diversity training program for all their dealerships. She'd spoken at schools, conferences, and community centers about standing up against injustice. Derek Walsh had been promoted to assistant sales manager at Prestige Motors and had become a vocal advocate for inclusive customer service. The dealership had implemented new policies, including anonymous customer feedback systems and regular diversity audits. James Morrison had reached out to Maya to join the advisory board for Morrison Equity Group, specifically to oversee diversity and inclusion initiatives across all their holdings, and Richard Foster? Maya had heard through the grapevine that he'd taken a job at a non-profit organization working on criminal justice reform, making a fraction of what he used to earn but reportedly finding the work meaningful. She hoped he'd genuinely changed. Maya's phone buzzed with a text from Zara. "Dinner tonight? It's been too long." Maya smiled and texted back, "Absolutely. I'm picking you up. I'm driving." As she packed up her bag to leave for the day, Maya paused to look at a framed quote on her wall, words from Audre Lorde, "Your silence will not protect you." She thought about that moment in the dealership, the choice she'd made to speak up rather than walk away. It had been scary, uncomfortable, even painful at times. But it had also been necessary, because silence protects no one. But speaking up can change everything.